Ronald Reagan used coded language such as getting tough on crime, which we understood and which came to be manifested as getting tough on black people and black communities. Donald Trump urged police officers, when they were arresting people of color, black people, to rough them up, to be tough with them. He opposed the consent decrees that were entered into by the Obama administration, particularly with the city of Baltimore, because Baltimore had an atrocious history of committing acts of police violence and police brutality against black people. The United States government and the city of Baltimore entered into an agreement where the city of Baltimore would be monitored for a certain period of years by the courts, by the federal courts. As soon as Donald Trump became the president, he immediately tried to back out of that. So Ronald Reagan and Donald Trump really were pro-police, which there's nothing wrong with being pro-police, but not to the extent that it is to the detriment and to the continued brutality of black people. Ronald Reagan played to the fears, the ignorance, and the grievances of Southern white so-called Christians who were really segregationists and racist people masquerading as Christians. Donald Trump played to the same fears, the same grievances, the same ignorance, the same hostilities of Southern whites, and not just Southern whites, white people in general who may not be as informed as they should be. Most recently, calling the Haitians who live in Ohio illegal immigrants, saying that they were eating the cats and the dogs of their neighbors, saying that their very presence in the city, in the United States of America, was poisoning America, the blood of America. The same tropes, the same racial strategy that was used by Ronald Reagan is being used by Donald Trump. Ronald Reagan opposed the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Ronald Reagan opposed the Civil Rights Act of 1964. When Ronald Reagan was the president of the United States, the Voting Rights Act of 1965 came up for reauthorization. Ronald Reagan begrudgingly, after being forced and pressured from other sources, signed the reauthorization of the Voting Rights Act, but did not want to. And the Voting Rights Act was the signature piece of legislation that came out of the civil rights movement of the 1960s. Well, Donald Trump, after he lost the 2020 election, filed lawsuits targeting the voters and the accuracy and the legitimacy of voters in 4 key cities: Milwaukee, Wisconsin, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, Detroit, Michigan, and Atlanta, Georgia. What do all of those cities have in common? Large black voting populations. Donald Trump demonized black people engaging in their basic and most fundamental right of citizenship, which is the right to vote. In that way, Donald Trump is an unvarnished, reimagined, more dangerous version of Ronald Reagan.